Right. Because it's being discriminatory towards those that don't have those needs. Right? Yeah. It's a hot mess.
It's
It's a
complicated.
struggle. And obviously, like, the people that act that way or say those things have never lived this life, right? So part of me feels really bad, like, well, not bad, but like, wow, what a sheltered life you've lived if that's your interpretation of this. And wow, how you've always been in dominant culture
Yeah.
and never have put yourself in a minority situation.
No, you know what? Honestly, it's also an eye opener where, you know, we tend to like to look at disabilities as limitations, right? But then there
Right.
are many people that are incredibly successful. Like, I think like one of them has to be like Stevie Wonder, right? Which is a blind man that can play piano and also makes his own
Right.
music. So I'm not saying to like not look at it. Yes, there's like a lot of things obviously we got to be able to take care of, but also understand, okay, instead of like treating it as like, oh, you poor thing. Why don't we
Right.
treat it like, okay, you are limited in a certain aspect, so you've had to figure out other ways of being able to survive in a world where you don't have. You see where I'm getting with this? So
Right.
it's just being able to shift our own parallel, and it's not denying, it's not centralizing, it's not demoting, it's having a better understanding.
Right. And acknowledging that, like, we all have intersectionality, right? So yes, I'm a female. Yes, I'm a daughter. Yes, I'm a sister. Yes, I'm an aunt. Yes, I'm a great aunt. Yes, I'm a teacher. Yes, I'm an advocate. Yes, I'm a coach. Like,
Damn, Jenna, that's
all
a
of those
long list.
things. But it's like that is all of me, plus more, because that's just the beginning, right? So I feel like we're in such, and I was just listening to something where it was like we're such a divisive culture. Actually, it was one of your podcasts, shocker of all things, right?
Hey,
And it was like, why does it have to be one or? Why can't it be one and? Because that is reality, but for whatever reason, with reality, with political stuff, with societal, we've all changed it that it has to be black or white, yes or no. And it's like, but life is gray. So yeah.
I one of my biggest eye openers was when I started meeting like actual disabled veterans.
Mm,
Ones that, for example, were missing limbs or had like severely damaged parts of their body that they couldn't move anymore. And
mm,
they were some of the most happiest people I ever met in my life. They were some people that like they still were doing construction, they were still working on their car, they were still helping
right.
out their wife, and but I think that came from a mentality of where they've been through worse, they've seen worse, they have this entire support team behind them, and they have people that they love
Yeah.
and care about. So they're not just going to stop just because life threw them an obstacle. They're going to keep on going regardless of those things.
Right.
Isn't that
And I
amazing when you
think
can look
too,
at them?
when you face the life and death, then you appreciate life so much more. You appreciate all of those situations. And yeah, even though life can be very, like you said, full of barriers or full of obstacles or things just getting thrown at you all the time, it's like it's what we do with it. It's how we react to it. Life's always going to throw us crap, but it's what we make of it.
I think we take it for granted, to be honest. I think something that we forget is as time has gone on, we live in a society where we're better and capable of assisting people in all walks of life. And a
Mhm.
lot of this stuff did not exist 20 or 30 years ago.
Right.
That's also something to keep in mind. Like a lot of the times, like if you were just throwing this, like you were a disabled person in the 80s,
Hmm.
you're going to the loony bin. You're going to one of those psycho, private, secret government run, it's a real thing, like mental asylums where they
Hmm.
abuse the shit out of you. And
Yep. Drug you up so that way you can't have autonomy and
hmm
dignity and all those
lobotomies.
things.
Yeah.
Hmm.
think
Yep.
lobotomies were banned earlier, but it's regardless of the point. It's just the fact that, okay, that was a reality in a very short time. That was like what, 40 years ago? Not even, like 38 tops.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, because I was diagnosed when I was 7 going on 8, so 1987. I always remember my maternal grandmother being like, Jenna, I'll never let them put you in an institution if you never let them put me in a nursing home. And so, like, and of course, I'm like 7 or 8 years old, and I'm like, I have no idea what an institution is, Grandma, but it sounds horrible. So, yeah, you keep me out of that, and I'll try to keep you out of a nursing home.
I think
But
that's a,
then, unfortunately, she needed that, and so then I got the, you broke our bond. I was like, well, I can't take care of you, Grandma, so sorry. But
you know what though?
yeah.
There are people. Look, I think this is something also to cover. There are people where when you do get older, that you're able to live on your own. You know, there are many people that live into their 90s where they still got their brain, they still got their consciousness, they still have some form of flexibility and mode. I think what it is
Yeah.
just it's mindset. You
Yeah.
know, sometimes, depending, and again, everybody goes through shit in their life, man. Like sometimes even our own grandparents had really, really, really hard lives. So
Yeah.
as you get older, that has a weight on you, and that does have an effect
Mm-hmm.
on you physically and mentally.
Yep.
But to be able to understand that you have those options, that's what I'm trying to get at over here is you
Yep.
are able to have those options instead of being able to have where you have forced options telling you that you
Right.
must do this or else.
Yep.
That's a different story.
Right. And I think, I mean, so much of this is getting forced on the disability community and culture as far as like finding care networks and making sure our needs get met and all of those things. And I think we're going to find ourselves in very different ways of housing, and we're going to find ourselves in very different ways of providing care because society is just crap in the bed. And it's like, so how can we come together? And, and I'm in different housing forums and situations and committees and that kind of stuff. It's like, please stop creating more cookie cutter living situations because we're not that. Our society isn't that. Like, we have less and less in the workforce. We have less and less going into medical. We have way less going into like PCAs and CNAs and LPNs and that whole world. And it's like, no, we're gonna need more of like that one room schoolhouse type of mentality, but it's gonna be where we all have communal living or like living co-ops, like, oh, you wash my back, all right, I'll help you put your shirt on, or oh, you need your meat cut, oh, well, then you blend my food. Like it's going to be a way more communal cooperative care. Otherwise we're not gonna make it through. And there's so much, like you said earlier, there is so much beauty and artistic and just amazing power within the disability community and culture that we're missing out on because people see the limitations. They see the wheels, they see the interpreters, they see the white canes, they, whatever it is that just, makes us look or act different to the dominant non-disabled culture. They see that as a limitation. But as like behind each of those things and the invisible disabilities, it's mind blowing of the amazingness that's there and the skill sets that we just don't even understand.
No, and I mean it also stems even into when you get into the world of autism. And I'm very much the person that's
Right.
on the side of it's not a disability, okay? It's not a limitation. You know what? I've been lucky enough to meet kids that are autistic to the point where they cannot communicate, they cannot talk, they're
Mm-hmm.
nonverbal, and they're very bright kids. They're very,
Mm-hmm.
very clever. They figure out ways of getting around the world without being able to speak. You know,
Right.
it's it's again all about changing your mindset. You know what the problem is the second that somebody throws out an idea and that becomes the norm. Instead of people being able
Mm-hmm.
to have a conversation and say, "Hey, let's talk to actual paraplegics. Let's actually talk to
Right.
people that have Down syndrome. Let's actually talk to people that have well, they nonverbal. We can't talk. They need somebody to talk for them.
Nope.
See? You see the shit that they pull. and they get away with
Right.
it because it's very easy. It's like, well, they can't talk for themselves, so we're going to talk on their
Right.
behalf.
Right. And it's like, no, there's many ways that a human communicates. And I think speaking versus communication is two excuse me, completely different things. And yeah, and I'm even kind of struggling sometimes, when it is actually the disabled person speaking versus their loved one or caregiver. And so I've just had some different scenarios in life recently. And I was just like, wait, but does this person actually believe that? Because they're at this age level of cognitive ability. And so they might believe parts of that, but not all of these ginormous words that you are, like you said, speaking for them. And it's like, no, let the words of the disabled person speak for themselves and give them the autonomy and the dignity and the voice that's truly their voice. We don't need to add more. We don't need to subtract any. Let the voice and the message be the voice and the message.
Like I said, in my experience with people that are nonverbal, they when they obviously they use iPads and stuff these days more than just pads
Mm-hmm.
and pen. They're very
Right.
direct, so they ask you directly what they want or what they're asking. There's no
Mm-hmm.
cookie cutter. There's no long biography. And I think, just as an observer, it's because that they're limited in for them to be able to speak. That when they need to communicate, they communicate as direct as they possibly can because they want you to
Yeah.
understand exactly what they're saying. So
Well, and then I would also say, as a teacher of a lot of kids that used AACs, and I have a good friend that also uses one, is we are very impatient. The American, Western, Caucasian, all the things, it's got to be rapid speak, rapid do, rapid all the things. Even though I'm Midwestern and we talk slower, it's still very, very fast. And it's like, no, when somebody's using an AAC, an iPad or whatever to verbally communicate for them, it takes a long time. And like, I had a summer during my college days and I had a burned vocal cord from one of my medications. And I was like, literally 3 months of no speaking, and I had to use a computer. Man, by the time you type something in and then hit speak, and granted, this was back in the late 90s, early 2000s, so the technology wasn't there like today. But still, I'm like, wow, that was just a very, very small glimpse into what it's like to try to stay in a conversation, to be in a group of people, to be out in community. Like, yeah, we just have to learn. And part of that is that we have to value that other person.
you do.
So
You
we
have
need
to
to shut up and just listen.
you have to also be able to stay focused because something that
Hmm.
especially like I know this especially with podcasting, the second you start drifting away,
Yep.
that's where things get really gnarly. And
Hmm.
that's something again where I think that we tend to forget as humans, right? Is we primarily communicate with language. But most other things on this earth don't primarily communicate with language. Great example of this, right? We have dogs and cats as pets.
Hmm.
Turns out cats don't really meow to each other in real life.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Dogs don't, wild dogs or specifically wolves, they only communicate when it regards their own pack, if they're hunting or they need a nest or burrow in a certain area.
Right.
So, what does
Hmm.
that tell you? What does so that means that, okay, we have gotten used to one form of many ways of
Yeah.
communication and has made that the staple. But it's not the only staple.
Right. And it is interesting. Our body language, I don't think we pick up on it. I think it's just social cues that we get used to. And some of us have some training in, human psychology or those kinds of things, but by and large, we don't. We're just picking up what has been role modeled or what we've seen as examples, right? And I had a situation, I don't know, a couple decades ago now, and somebody had to tell me, like, Jenna, tell me about your posture right now. And I was like, huh, what do you mean by that, right? And they're like, well, to me, your posture means that you're like disengaged from this conversation because I was popped in a wheelie, leaning back,
Right.
arms were, laying, doing all the things. And I'm like, no, I'm actually more engaged mentally right now. Like, my wheels are spinning and we are having this like super amazing conversation.
Full
And I
blown.
was like, oh, but to the non disabled, I was looking like I was bored and not engaged. But in my body, it was getting my body at rest. So my brain and my ears could be fully engaged and not thinking about, oh, my hips hurt. Oh, my tailbone hurts. Oh, this arm isn't propped up well, And I'm just like, nope, I'm here. I'm fully here for you right now because this is my, like, happy place. But it was just great and it taught me a lot. So now I try to explain that to people when I'm in business meetings or whatever. Like, this is my body. My body's going to look different than yours, and here's how. But ask curious questions, don't make assumptions, right?
No, like the idea of also like, it used to be where we have this very big problem in the US where most places are not accessible. What I mean is the fact that if you're somebody that's in a wheelchair to get to certain places, it's next to impossible. You have to like park
Mm-hmm.
and then like literally roll for like fucking 10 minutes just to find a place just to get up on the ramp, and then you got to go all the way back in the opposite direction. You know, and
Yep.
then like you come in and then you're like kind of a little aggravated and you're a little pissy, and then you're talking with somebody and they're like, what's up with you? And like you want to explain to them, like, you realize that I had to like literally go around 10 minutes just to get where you're standing. They just walk the curb and you were right there.
Yep. And then we get the whole, well, you should just be grateful to be out of your home today.
Oh, get the fuck out of
Yep.
here. No, but you know what? Like, look, it's not like everybody's gonna have this, right? Okay,
Right.
but it's also being able to like being a little bit more considerate at the same time. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's be real, all right? The steps and the massive curbs, most of the time, they're not really necessary. Like this whole idea, like it's
Right.
protecting cars. Do you know how many cars fly through store windows regardless of those? They still fly through. Okay, they still fly
Right.
through. You
And they might
know,
actually get a little trajectory because of them.
and I'll be honest, like some of the places, like I remember even being in Massachusetts, like some of the city centers, they have what's called basically like a nature and urban environment flow. So everything's kind of floor level.
Mm.
And then there's kind of like
Okay.
little ramps because there's hills, obviously. So
Right.
you don't really need to like go up steps and stuff. It's just kind of everything kind of like just meshes together with like trees and cobblestone and little stores and stuff. It feels a little bit more natural, you know? You don't really, that's the thing too, is you don't really
Right.
notice like people that are, for example, in wheelchairs or dealing with disabilities, like out in the blue. It just kind of blends in with everybody
Blends
else.
together. Yep.
You're not separating people.
Gee. Right. Like society should be, like community should be. Yeah.
I know.
It's so interesting when you're in those spaces, like when I'm actually the majority instead of always the minority. It's I was like, why does this feel? I mean, it feels good, but it's just like, what feels different? And then you look around and you're like, oh, because I'm with my people, and oh, there's accessible bathrooms everywhere. There's power doors everywhere. But the amount of times I can probably count that on my hand is like two, right? But still, it's like, yeah, it's so I don't know. That's going to be such a great day when we get there, if we get there. But I try to continue to be hopeful every day.
Here's the flip side of it, okay? I'm currently in vocational school. I'm in an automotive school. And
Nice.
I remember, thank you. I remember one of the people in the office, one of the directors, I noticed like they had signs all over the place in Braille. And jokingly, like
Oh,
I told
cool.
the guy, I said to him, I said, why do we have Braille all over the walls? I'm like, this is a place where we're working on cars. And he's like, well, it's not for us. It's like, for example, people that are coming in with their families that might. And I'm just like, I'm thinking to
Mm,
myself there for a second, right? this idea of it being inclusive, like we were just saying before, like being able
Right.
to make things a little bit more accessible. But then there's like the
Right.
opposite side of it, just to be able to like follow regulations, follow restrictions,
Hmm.
follow the code. Bam, we're just putting a sign with Braille. It just feels like,
Tokenism.
yeah, I'm like, it's an automotive school, man. Like, I don't know how many blind people are going to be walking into this place. It's kind of dangerous.
True. You'd have to have a lot of accommodations to be a safe
Yes.
automotive for blind school.
Especially and especially when it comes to electrical, right? You know, like yeah, there's a lot of people that are
Yeah.
blind that are able to get around very well, but
Right.
electrical stuff, you
Yeah.
really need somebody to be there with you if you cannot see.
Right. Cut the blue cord. Which one is blue?
Shit,
Yeah, for
fifteen
sure.
hundred
Yeah.
amps, Frankie, no more.
Oof. Yeah, that'd be bad. Oofta.
Really bad. It's like where's the body? It's right there. But there's just ash. That was the
Right.
body.
Yep. Safety first.
Hmm. Oh god.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even in some of my work, because I'm in rural Minnesota, and so it's so funny. Like, you see it like a new intersection put in. And so then you're like sitting at the stoplight, and you're like, cool, curb cut here, sidewalk, awesome. Curb cut there, sidewalk, awesome. Curb cut there, into a field. Why? But like you said, that's the policy of the state or Department of Transportation. Like when you put it in, because you don't know if next week a business might own the field and you need to put in a sidewalk. And like, I ultimately get it, but then in the same respect, it's like that couple of $1,000 could have gone over here to get a different kind of crosswalk or texturize something, or you know what I mean? Like, it's just interesting the policies we put in place. And some of them do make sense, and other ones you're like, yeah, no. So, yeah.
It's I was talking with somebody the other day, and it's weird because, I'm kind of the person that I like to see all perspectives, from the conservative side, from the liberal side, a mixture from both. And when you look
Hmm.
at especially mental health in this country, right? Because a lot of it does correlate, especially with people with disabilities, because let's be honest, like mental health in that forte is pretty much absent. But we could talk about that.
Yeah.
And you mix all of these things together and you combine them, and then you ask yourself, okay, what exactly has changed in the past 40 years? A few regulations, a few papers have been signed, a few new organizations have
Hmm.
been made, a few more tax dollars have been thrown somewhere, but
Yeah.
nothing is actually getting done. Look, I'm not the person that's going to sit down and in Washington and do all the paperwork to get all this shit done. Hell nah. I'm just trying to be the one that's trying to raise the awareness for this shit, because let's be real. It's like, well, we have a mental health crisis in this country. Okay, we got Jenna over here. I've had other people on. Let's talk about it.
Hmm.
Like, what exactly is this quote unquote mental health crisis? And
Right.
it's it's a lot. It's a Mount Everest
Yeah.
of crap.
Yeah, my analogy usually is like it's just a big ball of yarn and you don't know what to pull first. And
Get the
then
cat.
sometimes you think you're right, and then the
Get
cat
the
comes in and
cat.
you're like, well, forget that. But you think you're pulling on the right string, you think you're making gains, you think you're figuring out how to straighten it out, and then all of a sudden, nope, you've been pulling on the wrong one, and now you have all these knots, and now it's just a hot mess more than it was before. But I think, a lot of it is like, A, we just need to slow down. B, we actually have to give a crap and care. And C, like, we have to value the voices and the stories and the lived experiences in order to do better. Because we all know better in some way, shape, or form, but it's that application of it. And it's also asking those curious questions and not being afraid to ask why. Like, why is this policy in place for two curb cuts that don't need to be there currently? And can that money be spent somewhere else that makes something more accessible or more safe? And if not, then, like, what are the next steps, kind of a thing. And yeah, it's just, again, it's just more of those conversations. But in the same respect, it's like, you can't just keep having meeting after meeting after meeting because then all you're doing is talking. Like, we got to put boots on the ground, wheels on the ground, hands in the dirt, like, work together to make these spaces more accessible. And like, what accessible means to one person isn't what's accessible to another. And like, so much of dominant culture is using the word accessible all the time that I was like recently in a meeting. And they're like, yeah, we did this sign project and wanted to make it more accessible. And like,
I know where this is
everything was
going.
about all the other DEIA spaces. And like, then they did this big presentation and all the things and about universal design. I was like, this is super awesome. And don't get me wrong, this project is awesome. It did amazing things for other populations and for art. But then I said, okay, so in your presentation, there's nothing in here about accessibility. Like, what was your feedback from my community and my culture? And they're like, oh, well, like, two people answered, and yeah. And I'm like, but we didn't make your presentation. Even though the whole time you said this was all about accessibility, and they kept saying accessibility, but I'm like, I don't think you mean disability accessibility.
There's a lot of meshing and a lot of mixing of things. That's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
You know what the
Yep.
worst part is, and I hate this with a diehard passion, is a term that they've been using the past couple of years, which is compartmentalization. So this
Mm-hmm.
idea of where you take one thing and then you lump it together with something else because, like you said, it falls under accessibility, it falls under disability, and everything kind of fall.
Right.
It's the same thing like we were talking earlier with autism. It's like autism is a spectrum. What the fuck does that even mean?
Right. Like,
Like,
pretty much everything is a spectrum, right? We
yeah,
all can be different levels of XYZ disability or XYZ allergens, or you know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's a lot. And the biggest thing is like, hi, I'm Jenna. Here's my personal needs instead of all my labels and my medical conditions. You know, like, let's start there.
there's a lot of things that you can learn from a person just by getting to know them. You know, for example,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that there are plenty of people in your life that have been able to learn about you just spending time with you. You know, it could be family, it
Right.
could be friends. And do you have to
Mm-hmm.
physically always tell them, hey, here are my limitations. Here's my Santa Claus, like, naughty and good list. FYI, when we go to Olive Garden. No, because you know they've
Right.
gotten to know you. They kind of understand that, like for example, if there's a ramp and you're pushing a little close to the ramp, they're like, Jenna, hold on. You know, like, and they'll come running to make sure you don't fall down. You know,
Don't go over the edge.
don't go over the edge. I know you want to do it, but please don't.
Well, but it is so funny because then on the flip side, some of my good friends are like, oh, they're like, hey, let's go to this restaurant or let's go to this store. And I'll be like, is it Jenna friendly? Oh, shit, I forgot about your wheelchair because I just see you as you. And I'm like, well, thanks, and, right? Like, thanks that you just see me as me, but this is a huge part of me, especially as a disability activist and advocate, right? Like, I'm not just a wheelchair, but I also use that to traverse this world. So yeah, it's very very interesting.
It shapes you. So here's the thing, right? Because we've been talking about the fact that, you know, there's disability and then there's also the term limitation. But there's also
Mm-hmm.
the fact, right, in your case, where it is a big part of your life in the sense of where
Yes.
it navigates of how you get around, it navigates how much time it takes you to be able to do certain things. It's also had in your own life where you've had to learn to adapt to do things differently than, let's just say, most people would do. So
Right.
it's not like a giant ass freaking label that you get tattooed on your arm, but it is a part of you and it is a part of the work that you do. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it doesn't have to be like, hey, this is who I am. Like, I'm shoving it into your face. It's just, if you're getting to know me, if you're going to talk to me, you want to get to know the work that I'm doing, this is a part of what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, it's just it's not treating it like it's just some taboo. And and for for listeners that are listening that are maybe new in their journey of disability or are not disabled yet, right? Like I get that there's a grieving process. There's a right. Um and that's in some, like, I get it, and yet in some ways it seems very unfortunate. But there's so many different models out there, the societal model of disability, the medical model of disability, and I know there's a couple more that I just learned about, but they haven't sunk in yet for me to share. But it's so interesting about, it's about who you put around you and who comes alongside of you in those early days of your disability, whether it's a medical disability or an accident or, however you become disabled. Um, and in my world, yes, I've gone through the gamut of like, oh, I want to be differently abled. I don't like the word limitation, or I don't like the word handicap, or I don't like the word obstacle or barrier or whatever. Like we're all on this weird journey of roller coaster and
Figuring it out.
trail, and
Yeah.
right. And everybody has to figure it out for themselves.
Right.
And like for me personally, on this day in 2025, I'm like, I hate the word handicap because I'm not a golf scorer. I hate golf. I love mini golf when it's wheelchair accessible, but like I'm not a
Some
golf
really
term.
great.
So
Just shout out, by the way, there's some really great mini golf places that are handicap friendly. Like,
nice.
and they're fun as shit, especially ones that are indoors. You got the neon
Right?
lights and you got the dinosaur, and like those
Oh.
wheels be shining in the light. And you'd be like, damn, Jenna, you be doing some disco right now.
See, or come where you are, because we don't have any of that cool stuff here. There's a couple outdoor ones, and I guess that's a new regulation, which I just learned like 2 summers ago when a new one came in, because 9 of your 18 holes have to be ADA compliant, and I'm like, awesome, but if you don't promote that, who's gonna know that? So
Nobody.
yeah, nobody, because we just assume. I mean, we in disability culture assume as much as the non-disabled culture, but yeah, it's just wild. And so I think having grace and having compassion for each other, and then also just being secure enough in who you are to be like, you know what? I just totally screwed that up. I used the wrong terminology, or I said something that, you don't like or don't appreciate or don't feel respected by, and I'm sorry. Help me learn. And you're also not my teacher. Like, I don't always have to teach other people about disability.
No, you don't have to.
But
You don't always have to be the teacher. You do have times where you can be
right,
off. It's not a 24/7
right.
job. You're not working at McDonald's or Burger King.
Or Walmart. They're open 24.
Are they? Are they in the Midwest? Because they're not out over here in the Northeast. Bastards.
Oh, they are still here in the Midwest. Yes.
Bastards. All right, I guess I got to come out to the
Yeah.
Midwest now.
Yeah,
Get my
but
real
Perkins
Walmart
is not
experience.
open 24/7 anymore. At least in my area, which I'm like, seriously?
I know.
Good college memories at Perkins. What can I say? But
One thing that you touched on, which I think is very true, is being able to navigate and being able to kind of be able to get around. You're right, though. There are different types of disability. I mean, for example, in my case, like I'm dyslexic. I kind of realized I was
okay.
dyslexic like a couple of years ago, and I remember just like realizing that you navigate around the world completely differently. Like for example, for me,
Mm-hmm.
it's very hard for me to understand the difference between right and left 90% of the time, or backwards and forwards. Numbers are a bitch for me, and I work in cars. Don't tell anybody where I'm working, please.
Any employers listening, click right now.
I'm literally the type of person, when I put on the wrench on the bolt, I have to remember what's clockwise and counterclockwise, because I don't. So that's what I'm trying to say, is like you have to basically like learn to navigate this world. Let's be real, it was not designed for either of us. It's like,
no.
What's
Don't
that?
tell Dave righty tighty lefty loosey.
Oh no, please don't. Please don't.
I didn't think about that till like right now. Sorry, all my dyslexic friends and family members.
But you get what I'm saying, though, is like you have that in a heightened awareness of other people around you. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Even though it's like a majority, that does help, because then you have other like-minded people. Example, in your case with the work that you're doing, where you're able to talk with those people that are, as we said earlier, like the spectrum.
Mhm.
and hear the other stories, hear the different sides, and you realize that you're really not alone. There are other people that feel,
Right.
react, and understand very deeply what you're going through. Just on a different shoe, instead of Nike, it's Adidas, or Reebok. Having a little
Right.
comeback. We got to give them a little credit.
Maybe someday.
Someday. It's not 1980s. No more Rick Ross. Yeah.
Nice. They tried for a comeback. They tried.
They tried. They really did. But I think that's also the positive side of it, especially when it comes to communities, is the fact that we have that. It's that ability where you can talk with other peoples from different sides of disabilities and really, really get to see
Mhm.
the deeper story behind it.
Yeah. And also, like we said earlier, to know that, we're the most diverse community that there is. Anyone is welcome at any moment, at any time, and we grow every single day. And so it's very interesting as the baby boomers come through and they're entering into my culture and community is like, welcome. And they're like, what the heck? This isn't accessible? I can't go to the bathroom here? I can't get in this establishment? I can't have my needs met? This is BS. We're gonna. And it's like, thank you. Come on in, but join the whole team that's been here because we all are part of the thing. And so I'm excited that, that large generation of Americans is going to be joining, and they've got the buying power, they've got the numbers behind them. So it's just going to be very interesting to see how this all works together. But I also hope that it doesn't become another space where we can divide, right? Like,
Yeah.
not all disabled people love the word disabled. They also don't all identify. They all, don't necessarily want to be in community with other disabled people. Um, so, like all the misnomers and the different scripts that non disabled people have about disability community is also very interesting. Um, and there is a hierarchy, right? Like if you can move all four appendages as somebody in a wheelchair, oh, you're up here. But if you're limited in those four appendages, even though you can move them, you're kind of down here.
Yeah, but the
But like if you're a high functioning para and you're like buff, then you're like up here. So it's like there are different parts of disability culture that
no,
are still
there are, but you know what? I'm gonna just say this: there are probably plenty of things that you can do that I can't do. As Bob, vice
and
versa.
likewise, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
and I think that again, like that hierarchy and putting people on pedestals, I think is kind of redundant. It's because people don't
Right.
work that way, right? It's to say,
No.
well, there's only one form of disabled. Okay, people are different. You have all different
Mm-hmm.
types of people. You have literally almost 8 billion people on this planet. You know,
Right.
like we said earlier, there are people that get hit by a bus and then they're paralyzed in a wheelchair for the rest of their life. There are people that go through cancer and lose a limb. There are people that have mental health issues. There are people that are
Right.
autistic. There are people that have Down syndrome. There are so
Mm-hmm.
many different things. But to
Yep.
your point is when you're dealing with a generation like baby boomers, and again, I'm not throwing out any shade. I'm just pointing out the,
Mm-mm.
the real. They
Right.
grew up in an era where mental health was insane, and that's
Mm, yeah.
crazy. People, any form, you had to be perfect. You had to be, you don't get angry. You stay calm. You stay
Right.
relaxed.
Keep
Everything's
up with
good.
the Joneses,
Keep up with
have
the
the right
Jones.
purses, the right shoes, the right
Yeah, right
boats.
shoes, everything. So what do you think?
Yeah.
What happens to those people now when they're living in an environment like we were talking about where there's a lot more awareness, we have technology where people are able to communicate virtually. They feel
Mm,
like they have some privilege that,
yeah.
I've been around longer than you and I should be getting these things before you because I've suffered more than you have. I mean,
Or I've put more into the system, so therefore I should get from the system before
boo
you do.
hoo, boo hoo.
Yep.
It's being
And I
entitled.
think, you know what? Oh, go ahead.
No, it's being entitled. That's what I'm getting at. Like,
Yeah. Yep. And it's where do we put the value on life? Right? Why do we say that somebody that has this mental brain power is more important than somebody that has that mental brain power? Or somebody that has this ability or skill set is more important or more valued than somebody with this skill set? And it just all comes down to judgment. It all comes down to hierarchy, like you said earlier. Um, and the thing that drives me bananas is we all have these conversations, and yet then we still live in the same system. Like we complain about the systems, we complain about how humanity and society are going, and very, very rarely do I see folks that are actually intentionally making the changes or doing the hard work or just digging in consistently day after day, moment after moment, challenge after challenge to change the ways. So, and I
it's
get it because I beat myself up all the time too. Like, Udenberg, good, you just said bananas instead of the other C word that you said earlier. Like, I'm trying to get that out of my vocabulary because, again, that is not okay. So it's like bananas, bonkers, lose
I
them. Yeah, that's not even good. I don't know.
no. I'm gonna stick with bitches. It has a nice ring to it. No, but I think I think you have a good point though, where we can't fix this problem nationwide. That's a fact.
Right.
We can't. We know there's not enough power. There's not enough dirty politicians that feel that they can make enough money off of this. So
Right.
the only option that we have is community by community. Depending on where we live, we can try and work along with those communities because we're around very similar people. We're going to around to very similar neighborhoods and areas, right? We should be able to kind of
Mm-hmm.
understand the demographic of the place that we're living. Okay, if you're living in Los Angeles, all right, I don't expect you to understand the demographic of Los Angeles. There's 8 million people in a shitload of places with tons of streets that make no sense. That's a whole different story. But I mean, like more local communities.
Right. Yep.
You can do more change there than you can do nationwide. That's all we can do.
Right. And then that's how you change the nation, right? It reminds me of
Slowly.
my seventh grade science teacher's poster on his door. Think globally, but act locally. And it's like, right. You just got to do the next right thing at the next right time. And also, we're not held accountable to what other people do with it, right? Like, all we can do is what we can do, and then we just have to let it go and hope that the tree grows, hope that the seed is planted, hope that the next choice that they make, they'll think about increasing accessibility or changing their hiring practice or changing the way that they train their workers or it's not just the physical barriers, it's also the attitudinal barriers. And yeah,
Community
there's a
attitude.
lot. Yep.
I think also I like to. I did a whole podcast episode on him. Harvey Milk, when he was the district supervisor in San Francisco, I think that was a very pivotal point because it showcases where of how much of a difference you can do from the inside than trying to spread yourself thin. In where
Yep.
you can work along with a community and all different people that are living in that community, whether religious, gay, you have the blue collars, you have the upper class, you have all these sorts of people. And then
Right.
kind of being able to get the mentality of attitude of, okay, let's sit everybody down at the table.
Yep.
Let's discuss what exactly people need, right? We want safe schools. Agreed? Yeah, great. We want safe schools. We want safe environments. That'd be nice, right? We all live in a safe community. Nobody's robbing each other. Everybody's taking care. Great. We want to make sure that
Right.
there's local businesses, so there's some revenue that's going back in our community. great, we got all that shit too, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
then everything else that comes along. That is how we as humans are able to thrive, I think, successfully in an industrial age, is if we
Mm-hmm.
all sit down at the table and discuss exactly
Right.
what we need from this community.
Yep. That reminds me of Judy Human's great quote, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but the gist of it is everybody made sure that everybody was at the table, but nobody checked to make sure the table was accessible.
I know.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I got to the last part and I was like, oh, you even got me, Judy. Dang it. Like,
It wasn't even Judy Garland.
right.
It was the other
No,
Judy.
right. She had ruby wheels instead of ruby slippers.
Oh
But
God.
yeah.
No, but you know what? Again, though, it takes the small steps in order to be able to make those changes. Like I gave you a great example, right? I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if example this exists in your community, but I know that there are other communities across the nation that, for example, they're living in a place where they have more people that are disabled, right? For example, there are people in wheelchairs, and they build, for example, a storefront. They may have, for example, there are cases where they try to may have a ramp or try to make it more accessible for people to come in. They may try to have, for example, where it's a little bit lower, people can actually see what the toppings and stuff. And again, it could be where like this person is like, hey, I'm trying to build a business in this community. Hey, I know there's a lot of disabled people here. I know there's a lot of veterans and stuff. Maybe it's smart if we kind of there are people that are doing that stuff in their local businesses. The issue is
Yep.
like, you throw in cost and then throw in social media and people blasting people. Like that's a
Yeah.
thing other like I haven't really talked about this before. Like I've seen this on social media where people just go into businesses and you're like, you're anti-disabled people, da, 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 and they're just going a whole bullshit rant. And this like poor couple that like pour their ache and soul into the stores, like they're going bankrupt because of this stupid person that went on social media to like blast them.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
horrible.
No. That's why I love in our work that we come alongside the business. And it's like I just had a horrible experience at a hotel this week doing a access trip, and I was like, I'm
Probably
not
the
gonna
Radisson.
blast them. No, but maybe an affiliate. But I'm not gonna go out on social media. I'm not gonna go out on Yelp. I'm not gonna go whatever. You know what? I'm gonna deal with a chain of command and do it in a way that we can come alongside each other and make this not happen again to the next person. And then, of course, if they treat me like crap, well, then of course I'll I'll go to the ways that you need to go about it. But I also think that people don't know those ways either. So it's just so much easier to do the negative crap, throw it out there, and I don't care. But like you said, then it becomes this issue of, well, now you have nothing. And my hardest part too is like, I get that, there's this huge misnomer that making things accessible is always more expensive. And it's like,
It's not.
but is it really?
It's
Like
not.
retrofitting? Completely. I understand retrofitting from like an 18-inch door to a 36-inch door or a 32-inch door.
Oh, that's different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that can
frames
be some big
very
things.
expensive. Yeah, because you're changing the whole frame.
Right,
Like
and the whole structure and
yeah,
whether the wall will stay
yeah,
up
everything
or
has to
will the
change.
roof stay up, right?
Right.
Right. Like that I get, but like new construction, all that, and I'm like, if you would involve us before you even like when you have the bright idea, but then at every single step, disability, community, and culture is there, and it's not just ADA because that is just the floor. And if you do it right and you have people in at every single step, it's not going to cost you more. It's going to be you make it, you bring us in, and then you're expecting the pat on the back or the sticker on your nose to say, ooh, I did this great job. And then it's like, well, no, this isn't right and that isn't right. And yeah, that's within ADA code, but none of us can use it because ADA code has such a ginormous span of like how high a toilet can be or where the transfer bars can be in a bathroom or how high your bed can be in a hotel room. And it's just like, holy Hannah, like
It's a lot of
get
stuff.
get right, get wheels on the ground, get white canes on the ground, like get the people in that can help you make the right decision at the right time. and you would actually save money in the long run by making it usable by everyone. So,
It's being
yeah.
it's being able to be aware. It's look, we're not
Mm-hmm.
Europe, okay? We don't have 1,000-year-old structures here. Yeah, we do have some from Native
Right.
American tribes and stuff that. Okay, but that's a whole different story.
Right.
Most of our cities are new. Okay, they've been built maybe what,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 80, maybe 90 years ago. Some of them maybe have been around 150. It's not a long time compared to the rest of the world. So this
Yeah.
notion of, well, we have to hold on to the historical homage of our community. Cut the crap, okay? Half the reasons why Colorado looks the way it is because people went there for mining. Half the reason why Wisconsin
Mm-hmm.
is the way that it is because of the railing and steel companies that existed in the 1800s. The reason why
Yeah.
Texas is pretty much built for cars is because they built the national highways from there. So
Mm.
it has to do with infrastructure. Okay, this is what we're trying to get at is
Yeah.
these cities were built out of purpose and necessity. Okay, if you have people that are mining and they're like, I live 4,000 miles away, I'm not going home. They're gonna set up over there, and then there's another people that are over there. They're gonna build a road to connect those two places.
Right.
So now moving forward as we progress, right? Because we're cities are getting bigger and bigger, and more people are moving out. How do
Mm-hmm.
we make them more accessible? And it's not just used throwing on the slap of the term. It's like we know
Right.
that having more natural environments are healthier people. Well, it's like get your steps in, man. Not every time you need to have freaking steps everywhere. It's not always necessary. Like, am I wrong? It's like most
Right.
of the United States is pretty flat, except some areas. Like, you don't need steps everywhere. Can we do that? Hashtags don't need steps everywhere. Like, I'm not hating on exercise. I'm just saying, like, you don't really need it.
Right.
Right? Am
And
I
there's lots
wrong?
of well, there's lots of ways to traverse from one place to another to get your heart rate up. Because that's the whole point of that, right? Doesn't necessarily have to be steps, but we all like to say that. I would love to be in a community that'd be like, way to get your wheels in. I'd be like, yeah.
Yeah, like that exact. That's exactly how it works. I just roll them backwards and forwards, and I like lose a quarter of a pound each time.
Right. Well, it's like I had to laugh. I'm on a trail committee, and they're like, well, in the western coast of Minnesota, or of western coast of the United States, everything is in miles on signs. I'm like, or no, in time, and I'm like, your ability to walk 4 blocks and my ability to traverse 4 blocks, whether I'm pushing or whether I'm using my Firefly, all three of those are going to be a different amount of time.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, well, it's on the average person's ability to walk from here to there. Because human psychology is telling people that people will get out and not go back to their car when traversing a city or a community. If they say, oh, it's only 2 minutes away, we could go walk for 2 minutes. But is it that you can do a 4 minute mile? Is it that you do a 15-minute mile? Is it. And then I'm like, our batteries on e-bikes, on assistive tech devices, on power chairs, it doesn't go by time. It goes by miles. So why would you not put both? Again, back to the very beginning of our conversation, like, why does it have to be red or blue? Why can't it be red and blue? Minutes and miles. So
I mean,
yeah, it's
look,
an interesting time.
I am one of those that will park all the way at the end of the parking lot and be like, "Oh my god, that's not too far." I have no
Right.
understanding of direction at all. Okay, like I'm the one that'll walk the 8 blocks to realize that the 4 blocks was 4 blocks ago. Okay, so the whole perception of it being 5 or 10 minutes, not in my reality. Okay, my reality is like that's 2 minutes. 15 minutes later, I'm at the entrance. Okay,
Right.
so.
Like, what was that?
And like to be honest, like as a person, like I drive, it is sometimes confusing as hell because they don't build the roads for people that are dyslexic. Okay, they just throw a sign and you're like, oh, I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to go this way, and then like I'm already passing, like, oh
Mm-hmm.
shit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's just never ending. And again, it's the fact where like we want to focus more at home. Okay, I think this is all the work that I'm trying to get at. Like this is all the stuff that we're trying to do. We're trying to work at home. We want to work in
Yep.
this country that we call the United States, and we
Yep.
want to be able to push forward. We used to be a place that was progressive and moving towards the future. I mean, Jesus Christ, that's what all the 70s, 60s, and 70s was all about. It's like us going towards the future.
Right.
I mean, come on, like, I think that's what we want for our communities, is not to
Yeah.
isolate people with disabilities, not to baby people that are autistic. I freaking hate that shit. You know,
Yep.
literally treat people that are in wheelchairs as if they're like the elderly in a retiring home. That also pisses me off. I'm sure that
Yeah.
that can also sometimes piss you off too. It's like, don't.
Yeah, I love when people lean on my handlebars. I'm like, I'm not here to hold you up. Now, again, if it's somebody who needs it because they're struggling or they need, but
Yeah, yeah.
usually it's physically fit young folks that I'm like, hi, am I like stepping on your toes right now because I need to borrow your toes? That'd be kind of awkward. But I do weird stuff like that to people sometimes to prove the point. Like,
I love it.
here, let me lean on your hip. I'm like, why are you touching my hip? Why are you on my handlebar? Oh, sorry.
I think if I ever come out of Minnesota, I got to lean on your handlebar to find out. You know,
You're just
first
sitting on the
person,
back of my wheel, and yeah, I can see it, Dave.
literally have like, hey Greg, aisle A24, we have a man behind a wheelchair. Hey Greg, can you go check it out, please?
Be like, hey, Greg, clean up on aisle 9. Jenna just attacked Dave.
There are graham crackers all over the floor.
Right? He's
Oh
gone
god.
postal with a ketchup dispenser on Dave.
Let
Don't
me tell
worry,
you
don't
right
call
now.
911. He's not bleeding.
Let me tell you right now, that dispenser will be just like a fucking murder scene. Like there just be splatter all over those walls. Like you see the Walmart sign, you're like fresh, and there's just like splat of ketchup all over there.
I told you years ago to not touch my handlebars. Oh no.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna ask you before we wrap up. I
Yeah.
know that you have a book. I know you have your program, you do your coaching, and you do your training. Do you want to talk a little bit about your book?
Sure. I even have it here.
Ooh.
So it's called Within My Spokes.
Oh
Ooh.
wow.
Ah.
That that is a that is a chunky little bugger.
Yeah. It's got some things to it.
It's got a little
Yeah,
thickness.
so it
It's got a
was
lot of girth.
published in July of 2023. It's my memoir, so from diagnosis to 2022-ish in life. Subtitle is A Tapestry of Pain, Growth, and Freedom. So it's all about, when life gives you lemons, you either make lemonade or you chuck them at people because
Or you make limoncello.
sometimes it's, oh, there you go.
Yeah, in my
One of
case
my
it's
sisters I
limoncello.
used to, there you go. One of
Oh,
the sisters I taught with at a parochial school, limoncello was her thing. So
I mean, hey,
shout
if,
out to
if
Sister Mary.
shout out. I mean, but listen, man. If life throws you lemons, I am making limoncello and getting drunk out of my mind on a beach chair. Okay, and baking in the sun.
They're more fun to chuck at people in my world.
Oh,
But
that's
yeah,
amazing,
so
though.
writing the memoir was it was a work of heart and definitely interesting because people when they read it will be like, oh, that story of blah blah blah. And I'm like, shoot, I shared that story. All right. Forgot about that one. But yeah, and the word tapestry was given to me before I even started writing. But as I wrote it just made sense because it's not just my story, right? Every single one of our lives intersect with each other and we're all interdependent on each other. And so I don't know, I was just really blown away by that word throughout the whole process because there are some relationships that come into your life, some people that come into your life and they're meant to be the long haul. And then there's other people that come in your life and they're just there for a short time.
No.
you know. And then there's other people that are like, wow, they are deep in your tapestry, they're deep in your threads, and if they ever got yanked out, there's some big holes. There's some things.
You gotta mend them,
Um,
repair them.
right. And when you flip that sucker over, I mean, there's nothing but a hot mess.
I know.
Right? You got knots everywhere, you got strings cut off, you got strings starting again, you got slimy things, you got, like whatever. Like there's a lot of stuff that
That
makes the tapestry of who each
blasted,
of us
that
is.
blasted cat and its goddamn claws. It's like, damn, making holes in my tapestry.
And then they throw up their hairballs in the middle to try to fix it for you, right?
Oh, it's the worst. When they urinate on something, you're like, all right,
Oh.
witches, let's go outside. We're gonna do a burning.
You're like, oh no, no more tapestry.
No.
But
Your neighbor's looking outside. They're like, why do you got a bonfire? Just burning.
right,
Urinated
what are you
tapestry.
burning out there? What is that smell? Ooh,
Cat urine.
gross. Yikes.
Ew. No, but you know what though? Like, I think it's really amazing because there's different ways of being able to write stories. You know, sometimes stories could be nonfiction or they could be historical, but
Hmm.
I think there's something a little bit more personal when you're making your own memoir. It's because, like you said, you're sharing your story, what you went through, your
Right.
difficulties, how you got through that, and allowing other people to see that through their own lens. You know, I think that's a
Right.
really incredible thing about being able to tell your own story. It's like you're not restricting
Hmm.
anybody's views. You're just like, hey, this is me. This is what I went through. This is my. Just like the tapestry, right? Because, like, throughout history,
Hmm.
tapestries was a way of either families showcasing their family tree, or families in
Right.
certain cultures adding different pieces as generations went on. So there
Yep.
is that deeper story where you're putting that story out into the many stories within that tapestry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hope it inspires other people to share their story, whether
Yeah.
they become published stories, whether it becomes blogs out on the internet, whether it, like, or just verbally sharing their story. And I think that is so important in our current climate because nobody can argue. I mean, people could try to argue with me about my story, but like, I was there. I lived through all those pokes and prods. I lived through all those surgeries. I lived through the depression. I lived through, whatever it is. And yeah, other people who were a part of my story at the time probably see it differently because they lived through it as a caregiver, as a family member, as a friend, as a classmate, as a teacher, whatever story I'm sharing. And their story is just as important. And it's okay that our stories clash in what that maybe means to someone else because it, like you said, it's from a different lens, it's from a different perspective. But that's the whole point of life, right?
It is.
So,
No, and it's hard to be able to get your story out because sometimes
yeah.
you feel like you're not giving it the right justice or it's not the right time. Yeah, we come up with all sorts of
Hmm.
excuses. But I think to be able to not only be a teacher, but to be an advocate and be able to tell your own story through your own words, it's not easy. To think that it's like some movie with Anne Hathaway, where she gets a bright idea, and like all dreams come true in like the next 48 minutes. It's not it's not really how reality is. It's a difficult road to get through. And I'm sure throughout your lifetime you've been thrown those obstacles many times. And you could have decided to give up. I mean, that's the thing about human choice and free will.
Hmm.
You can sink in. You don't have
Right.
to. You didn't.
Right. For most of it, I didn't. There were some times, but sometimes you have to do the things to self-preserve to, take care of the things you need to take care of. But that's just not a part of my chemical makeup, ultimately, of why I'm here and what I'm doing and the family I was born into. And, you make things better because you're there. At least that's the hope, the goal.
You do you do what you can, and you be the best version of yourself.
Yep.
That's the only thing that you can strive the most towards, you know. And if you
Yep.
allow everybody's little tiny opinions or thoughts or ideas to plummet into your head like it's some type of visionary,
Hmm.
you're just going to be miserable and depressed your whole life. Like, obviously, like, you get those notions of like, oh, well, what happens, if I was able to live a normal life, I was able to see things like most people or do things like most people. That's boring as fuck. Okay? Boring as hell. It's good to be a little
Right.
interesting, Adds a little character, makes you a little bit more, what's the word? A little crazy.
Unique.
Yeah, or
A little
unique.
different.
Different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's
Yeah. It
amazing.
makes it more adventurous too. Like I don't want to be plain and bland and all the things. I mean, every once in a while, having a plain or bland day would be great. Don't get me wrong, but more often than not, that's just not the reality of a disabled person's life because your body betrays you real quick, and when least expected.
You know what,
But
also? Something you don't even realize yourself, right? You're around all of these people, your family, um, people you might have even taught, or maybe people that you run into just on a day to day basis. And you don't realize how you inspire them, where they
yeah.
may run into other cases of people that may be disabled and may have a completely different way of reacting than they would have had before,
Hmm.
just by knowing
Yes.
you and knowing the work that you're doing. It's like you are fixing the problem. You just don't actually get to see it.
Yeah. And I would also flip it on the other side too. Is like we're also not people's inspiration porn
No.
because that happens a lot.
Oh God.
And it's like, yeah, no, I'm just grocery shopping right now. Me grabbing this can of black beans should not be super inspiring.
No, it's just a can
Like,
of black. What are you doing with the black beans? We're making
right?
tacos on Tuesday.
That's so amazing. You're out of the home and you're wow. You're by yourself. Where's your caregiver? How can you be out by And it's just like so yeah. It's just checking your motives, checking your intentions, checking yeah all the things.
Do you want to hear something funny? So, somebody that's in the
Yeah.
automotive industry, I had to explain to somebody, one of my classmates, what a brawn ability vehicle is. So,
Ah.
it turns out like there's a lot of technicians that have no idea what accessible vehicles are, like the ones where the doors
Mm.
flung out or the ones that where you're able to lower to get
Mm-hmm.
a wheelchair. And
Yep.
I'm like the type of person, like, I've been around people that have disabilities, like I've worked in camps with disabled kids and stuff, so I've been around a lot of this stuff a
Nice.
long time. So, like, as an automotive tech, I'm like, wait a minute, you don't understand, like, they have air suspension. You don't understand, like, they have hydraulic hinges, so these doors and things are open. They're like, wait a minute, so how do, this is my favorite one, is like, oh my God, how do they hit the pedals? And I'm like, dude, we literally took an electrical course, man. Like, there's a switch on the steering wheel. Like, there's either a buttons or a knob or a lever. And again, like, we're in the same industry. We're in the same freaking industry. And I know about this. Like, I think, like, I'm being weird, but I'm like, how the hell do you not know about this? Like, you work on
Right.
cars. Like, well, I'm probably never going to work on a vehicle like that. How do you know you're never going to work on a vehicle like that? You don't know.
Right. Like we still go to dealerships. We still get our oil changed. We still do all the
Yeah,
things.
it's still made by the manufacturers. Like, if you're working for the dealer,
Right.
like, you're like, go, hey, Rick, what's the buttons on the steering wheel? That's the brake and the gas. But I thought the pedals are supposed to be at the bottom. Man, that's the accessible vehicle. Oh shit! I didn't realize
Right.
that. Dumbass is making
Or my favorite.
$145 for what?
Right. Well, and then my favorite is too is when I come wheeling into a place and they're like, "Oh, it's a female. Oh, it's a disabled female. Oh, we're gonna baffle her with our BS of like all these acronyms and all the things in the automotive world." And I'm like, Nope, and then this system connects to that system, and this is the primary computer, but this is the secondary computer, and this is the accommodation, and this is what this does. And I'm like, oh. I'm like, yeah, I may not use all your terminologies correctly, but I know enough. And oh, by the way, I coach robotics, so I get the general things. So, like, let's have an actual conversation. But I'm still frustrated because, like, with my accessible van, which is brown ability, is like, well, no, this is the dealership. No, that's in your conversion. I'm like,
No, it's not.
I'm pretty sure my lift system is working just fine. There's a rattle in the rear end. Well, no, 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 it's hiding behind your conversion. I'm like, all right, so then I go down to the conversion place. I'm like, hey, while you're fixing the ramp and doing the maintenance, can you double check what this is? They're like, yeah, that's actually in your van. And so, like, I still have a rattle in my rear end, and my family laughs that I say it that way, but that's how Jenna speaks. So, yes, I have a rattle in my rear end that nobody will find
Is it a Pacifica?
because they keep blaming each other. No, it's a Town and Country,
What year?
2015.
You might have a problem. Is a rattle that's coming from the wheels, or is it, or it feels like it's coming from like the back center? Where do you feel that it's coming from? It's okay. We're doing this on the podcast because I'm actually now curious.
Right. I would say more out by the wheels. So like I thought it was like potentially even like the struts or something
Wheel
like
bearings.
that. And it's not all the time. It's just from time to time.
Okay, so it might be your wheel bearings.
Mm.
That's right behind the rotors. So wheel bearings, they have bushings in them. It's possible. How many miles do you have on it?
120,000.
You might have the bushings worn in the wheel bearings. Could possibly
Okay.
just throw on that. But by the way,
There you go.
to your point though, like this stupidity of getting a little techie over here, the stupidity of the lift kits, or for example, the accessible hinges doors, or for example, the changes with
Yeah.
like this. Okay, to anybody that's listening to this, all right, these companies work along with the manufacturer. So usually, like for
Hmm.
example, for a lift kit, they'll usually put in what's called an accessory battery. So there'll be a separate battery, and there'll usually be a separate either smart fuse box like a BCM or something that connects so it can integrate with the computer system in the vehicle. But the company that makes these kits designed them specifically so they're just fit and play. So they don't interfere with anything else in the car. So, like to your point, it's hilarious when you have the dealerships that are like, it's your lift kit. Yeah, but it's there's no leaks on the floor, and I'm not getting any warning lights. And the lift kit is going up and down. So how is it the lift kit? You see what I'm saying? It's like
Right. Yep.
I got a long journey ahead of me. I know that. And I want to be the person. If I got a
But
disabled,
see,
if I got a disabled person with a vehicle, because I'm going to be working with BMW. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be that bitch that's going to go up, even up to my foreman, and be like, "Listen, okay, do not make me call up this person and blame the lift kit. I swear to God, I swear to
right.
God, I will not make that phone call."
Well, and then it's so funny too because they're like, we don't have a hoist that's big enough for your van. I'm like, it's a freaking minivan. And then I'm like, okay. I'm like, but you service the ambulances for the county, right? Yeah. Pretty sure my van can't be more heavy or more weird than an ambulance. I mean, maybe because I am unique, so therefore my
No,
devices probably are unique.
no,
But
lifts work off of hydraulic power, and they're designed to handle an excessive amount of weight. It's just
right,
don't be the idiot that when you're putting the arms underneath the car, you don't put it under the frame. Okay, you put it under the
right.
actual body, and then your car basically like rips and tears. You're like, oh shit. I'm like, yeah, oh shit.
Yeah. Well, then I have to laugh too because people assume that I have hand controls. So then they're like, "Well, we can't drive your car from your house to our shop or whatever." I'm like, Yeah, 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 you can because I drive with my legs." Oh, you do? I'm like, how will you ask a curious question instead of making an assumption? Like, and it's cool for those that do drive with hand controls, but my one experience that I talk about in my book was downtown big city. in rush hour traffic at 15 years old, haven't had behind the wheel training yet, but you have to do, at least back in the late 90s, you had to do your behind the wheel assessment at a rehab facility before you could prove that you could take behind the wheel and
And
driver's ed classes.
you can push the
So I was like,
you can push sorry for asking. You can push both of the pedals, or do you have like
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I drive any regular vehicle setup kind of a thing, yeah.
That's actually kind of helpful.
Yeah.
It saves on money too.
For sure. And then I have throughout my medical journey also used a left gas pedal. So that's a little mind altering to people to be like, wait, you drive left footed? I'm like, yes, I can be ambidextrous when needed. It is a mind meld for a little bit to be like, huh. But
The next question is going to
yeah.
be like, can Jenna drive a manual car? Okay, let's not push Jenna too far, all right?
If I wanted to, I could, but I don't want to, so no thanks. I rode with my brother enough when he was a teenager. No.
No, you know what though? Like what we were saying earlier, and I think this also ties in, like the fact that you've been able to say a memoir, and we've been able to have a conversation where it's hard to be able to change a narrative that's been in existence for over 80 years. But when you have people within communities, even for example, people such as myself, where we are aware, and it doesn't mean that we have to throw up our flags and have a whole month of celebration and all that crap. No. What it is that it allows me in my career, for example, me working in the automotive, to have a better understanding of, for example, somebody like yourself that brings, so that's what I can do. Or for example, in my case, for example, with podcasting, bring people on such as yourself and have a goddamn honest conversation about this.
Right.
It's just being able to have just at the very beginning, right? Because everything takes time, little bit by bit. Just being able to have the people that have that awareness and that understanding goes way higher than we ever had. Because let's be honest, like if we go back even 40 years ago, what were the chances of you running into people like me? Slim.
Slim to none. Right.
Here we are 40
What's
years
the chance that I'd be a master level educator, own my own nonprofit, live independently, and own a van that Brown Ability created?
And wrote a memoir.
And wrote a memoir.
Yeah.
And have a nonprofit.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But we've come along. That's the thing. We've come a long way as a society. And it takes little bits of steps to be able to get there. I mean, you know what? Maybe sometimes it doesn't happen in our lifetime, but at least we did what we can to leave the next generations and whoever comes next to maybe do the right thing.
Yeah. Or at least question why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah. See why it doesn't
also be good.
Yeah, why it doesn't really make any sense.
Right. And then also the unction to want to do better, so then therefore they will research and they will do better, or at least try. Trial and error. It's all good.
Yeah.
Right.
Just don't fail too much, because that starts costing trillions of dollars for some very strange reason. I don't know why.
Or at least learn from the failures. Don't just keep failing, but learn from the failures.
Maybe put the $1 trillion towards something that actually works, because it's a lot of money. It could do a lot of good.
Absolutely.
So I know about your memoir. I'm gonna definitely put a link for anybody that wants to find your book. I know you have a nonprofit. You've got a bunch of other things that you got your fingers in. Where can these wonderful people find your stuff, your social media, your website, all that jazz? Fun stuff.
Yeah. So website aboveandbeyondwithyou.org. And it's the capital U for Udenberg, not Y-O-U. You're not going to find us that way. So Above and Beyond stands for going above and beyond 88. That the 80 is just the floor, but we want to go to the ceiling. And With You is a nod to my music education career, because little kindergartners, 5-year-olds, could not say Udenberg, and many adults can't either. Sometimes I can't. So they hyphenated my name to Miss You. So Above and Beyond With You. And you can find us on Insta and Facebook and LinkedIn. And memoir you can find on Amazon or wherever you buy your books. And there's also a link on our website.
So you got everything one place. So if you're lazy and you don't want to start, just go to Above and Beyond with You.
You got it. It does. I worked hard to figure these things out, just like within my spokes. Like,
I can tell.
Is that a biking? Is that a wheelchair thing? Is that...
I mean,
whose spokes are you in?
Look, to anybody that's listening, like, I urge you to check up Jenna's book because this cover is beautiful. This is a really beautiful cover. It's like very...
It's actually from Camp Courage in southern Minnesota, so nod to all the disability camps. And it was actually at my bestie/disability mentor's wedding that was at Camp Courage, and my other bestie took the picture. So it's like, yeah, it's very fitting, very, very meaningful. And there's some other pictures, black and white, in the book, so you get to see Jenna. You get to see little Jenna, as well as older Jenna.
It's awesome. No, you know what though? I like that too. Though when you have because sometimes memoirs are just pages. It's nice when you have that memoir and it's got little photographs, a little bit of kind of let your mind. Because a memoir, you're not letting the audience create their own visuals. You're giving them the visuals, right, to see and hear your own story.
Yeah. And it is so cool. Eventually my audiobook will be hoping for July, but...
You're narrating?
I am narrating, yeah. So it's so funny, people that know my voice and then they read my book, they're like, oh, it was like you were telling me your story. Like I could hear your voice in my head. So even more impetus to go buy the memoir, and all proceeds from my book go to benefit Above and Beyond with You. So it's all a direct connection and continuing the work, so.
Listen. Keep going. I think this is absolutely amazing. Be sure to check Jenna out. And if you want to check out more of the podcast, you can find us everywhere and anywhere. Awesome. That. All right. Peace out.